Hello, my friend. Before we step back into the world of ancient Rome, before we discover the lost rhythm of sleep that our ancestors knew so well, I need you to do something for yourself. Something simple, something kind. Wherever you are right now, I want you to find the most comfortable position imaginable. Maybe that means adjusting your pillow slightly, pulling your blanket up a little higher, or simply letting your body sink more deeply into the mattress beneath you. There's no wrong way to do this. Just get comfortable, really comfortable. Good. Now, if you haven't already, dim the lights around you or turn them off completely. Let the glow of screens fade away. Let the brightness of your day dissolve into gentle darkness. And if you can't control the light, that's okay too. Just close your eyes and create your own darkness, your own private night. Take a breath with me now, a real breath, deep and slow, in through your nose, filling your lungs completely, and out through your mouth, releasing everything you've been carrying. One more time, in, drawing in calm, in peace, in permission to rest, and out, letting go of the day, the worries, the endless mental chatter that follows us like shadows. Feel your chest rise and fall. This simple rhythm, this in and out, this give and take, connects you to every human being who has ever lived, to the ancient Romans we're about to visit, to their ancestors before them, to everyone who has ever paused at the end of a long day and thought, I need to rest now. Tonight, we're traveling back in time, not to battles or emperors or the grand spectacles that history books love to describe. No, tonight we're going somewhere more intimate, more human, more real. We're going into the homes of ordinary Romans, into their bedrooms, into the quiet hours of night when the public masks came off and people were simply themselves. We're going to discover something remarkable, something we've almost entirely forgotten in our modern world, that sleep wasn't always the single, unbroken block of unconsciousness we try to force ourselves into today. For most of human history, including in ancient Rome, people slept differently. They slept in 2 shifts, with a peaceful, magical hour or 2 of wakefulness in between. And here's what's beautiful about this. It wasn't a problem. It wasn't insomnia. It was natural. It was expected. It was even treasured. So, settle in now. Let the world outside these words fade away like morning mist under sunlight. Let your muscles begin their slow release, your breathing find its deepest rhythm, your mind start its gentle drift towards sleep. We have all night. There's nowhere else you need to be, nothing else you need to do. Just listen and let the ancient world carry you softly into rest. It's evening in Rome. Not the Rome of marble monuments and imperial grandeur, though those exist here too, but the Rome of ordinary people. The year is somewhere around 150 CE, during the peaceful reign of Emperor Antoninus Pius, when the empire is at its height, and life, for many, is as good as it's ever been. The sun has set perhaps an hour ago, and the sky over the city is the deep purple blue of twilight fading into night. If you were standing on one of Rome's 7 hills right now, you could see the last traces of amber light clinging to the western horizon, reluctant to let go, the way daylight always is. But we're not on the hills. We're in a neighborhood called the Subura, a densely packed district of apartment buildings and narrow streets, of shops and workshops and taverns, of working families and modest fortunes. It's loud here during the day, impossibly loud, with vendors shouting, wheels clattering over cobblestones, construction echoing off walls. But now, as night deepens, the volume is dropping, the city finding its nighttime voice. We're going to enter a domus, a townhouse, small but respectable, home to a family of moderate means. The father is a freedman, a former slave who earned his liberty and now runs a successful pottery workshop. His name is Marcus. His wife is Julia. They have 3 children and Julia's elderly mother living with them. It's a full house, warm with life and noise and the comfortable chaos of family. But right now, as evening settles, the chaos is quieting. The family has finished their evening meal, the cena, the main meal of the Roman day. They ate together in the triclinium, the dining room, reclining on couches the way Romans do, sharing dishes of bread and olive oil, a stew of lentils and vegetables, some cheese, a bit of fish, wine mixed with water, honey cakes for the children. Simple food, but satisfying, the kind that fills your belly and makes you drowsy. The house smells of lamp oil and cooking fires, of the particular scent of old stone and wood smoke that permeates all Roman buildings. Julia has been burning a small amount of incense earlier, frankincense, expensive but worth it for special occasions. And today is the calends, the first day of the month, a time for small household rituals. Marcus and Julia don't go to bed immediately. Not yet. This is their time, these hours after the children sleep and before they themselves must rest. Marcus sits in the tablinum, the study, going over his workshop accounts by lamplight. Not because he has to, it could wait until morning, but because he likes this quiet time, this sense of the day winding down gradually rather than stopping abruptly. Julia sits in the atrium, the central courtyard open to the sky, working on some mending by the light of an oil lamp. The lamp flickers and dances, casting moving shadows across the walls. Outside, through the opening in the roof, she can see stars beginning to emerge, one by one, like shy creatures venturing out only when it's safe. From somewhere in the neighborhood, she can hear voices, laughter from a tavern down the street, a baby crying, then being soothed, the bark of a dog, territorial and brief, a cart rumbling past, probably night deliveries, since wheeled traffic is banned during daylight hours in Rome's congested streets. The city never truly sleeps, but it does quiet, does shift into a different mode. An hour passes, maybe 2. Time moves differently in the evening, doesn't it? Without clocks demanding our attention, without schedules fragmenting every moment, time becomes more fluid, more forgiving. Marcus finishes his accounts. Julia completes her mending. They extinguish most of the lamps, leaving just one burning low in the hallway. Romans don't like complete darkness in their homes, believing that household spirits need some light to navigate by. The children are being put to bed first. The 2 youngest share a small bedroom off the central courtyard. Their beds are simple wooden frames strung with rope, topped with a stuffed mattress, wool mostly, covered in linen. It's not luxurious, but it's comfortable enough. The children have known nothing else, so to them, it's perfect. Julia tucks them in, pulling a woolen blanket up to their chins. The night is cool. It's autumn, and Rome's Mediterranean climate means the days are still warm, but the nights require covering. She kisses each child on the forehead, smooths their hair, whispers a soft prayer to the household gods for their protection through the night. "Sleep well, little ones," she murmurs. "The Lares watch over you. The house is safe. Tomorrow will come with all its adventures, but tonight is for dreams." The children are already drowsy, their eyes heavy. They've been up since dawn, the way children always have been, burning through energy with the kind of intensity that only the young possess. Now that energy is spent. Within minutes, their breathing deepens, and they slip into what Romans called the prima somni, the first sleep. They retire to their cubiculum, their bedroom. It's a small room, private, with a door that closes, a luxury that many Romans don't have. Their bed is better than the children's, a sturdy wooden frame with more comfortable stuffing, covered with linen sheets and woolen blankets. In winter, they'll add furs. In summer, just the lightest covering. They lie down together, not immediately embracing, just lying there, side by side, feeling the day drain out of their bodies. This is a ritual they've performed thousands of times over their years of marriage, and it never gets old. This moment of transition, of moving from the public world to the private, from activity to rest. Julia speaks softly. "The children are well. Your mother seemed comfortable tonight. The household is at peace." Marcus nods, though she can't see it in the dim light. "The workshop was productive today. We finished the commission for the temple. The new apprentice is learning quickly." These aren't profound conversations. They're not solving the problems of the empire. They're just connecting, sharing the small details that make up a life, confirming that their little world is okay, that they can let their guard down, that sleep is safe. Their breathing synchronizes without them noticing. Marcus's hand finds Julia's in the darkness, and their fingers intertwine. They don't need words anymore. The day is done. The house is secure. The children are safe. Tomorrow will bring its own concerns, but tonight they can rest. And gradually, so gradually that there's no single moment you could point to and say, "This is when it happened," they drift into sleep. The first sleep, prima somni, the deep restorative sleep that the Romans knew always came first, before the night revealed its secret second half. Their breathing deepens, their muscles relax completely, their minds let go of the waking world and slip into dreams, dreams of the workshop, of the children, of memories and hopes, and the strange symbolic language that the sleeping brain speaks. The lamp in the hallway burns lower. The stars wheel slowly overhead, visible through the opening in the atrium roof. The household gods stand silent watch, their small statues in the lararium casting tiny shadows. The night deepens, and Marcus and Julia sleep. Just as you can sleep now if you wish. There's no pressure, no requirement, But if your eyes are growing heavy, if your body is sinking deeper into comfort, if your mind is beginning to wander into that soft, undefined space between waking and sleeping, that's perfect. That's exactly right. Let it happen. Trust the process, just as these ancient Romans trusted that sleep would come when it was ready. Several hours have passed. If we could see a water clock in the house, we'd know it's somewhere around midnight, perhaps a bit later. The Romans called this time the concubinium, the time when everyone goes to bed, but that's not quite accurate, because something interesting is happening now. Marcus stirs, not suddenly, not with alarm, but with the gentle, natural waking of someone whose body has completed the first phase of its nightly restoration. His eyes open in the darkness. He's not confused, not disoriented. This is normal. This is expected. This is the intempesta nox, the dead of night, the space between the two sleeps. He lies there for a moment, listening. The house is deeply quiet now, that particular quality of silence that only comes in the middle of the night when even the city has finally surrendered most of its activity. He can hear Julia's breathing beside him, slow and steady, she still in her first sleep, and he doesn't wake her. Some nights she wakes first, some nights they both wake together. Tonight, it's his turn. Marcus rises carefully from the bed, feeling around for his tunic in the darkness. The floor is cool under his bare feet. The hypocaust, the underfloor heating system, has been banked for the night. Not cold, but cooler. He pulls the tunic over his head, wraps himself in a light cloak for warmth. He moves through the house with the confidence of someone who knows every inch of his territory. Past the children's room, he pauses, listens, confirms they're sleeping peacefully. Past his mother-in-law's room, her snoring is gentle, rhythmic, reassuring. Into the atrium, where starlight filters down through the opening in the roof, just enough to see by. This hour, this mysterious middle-of-the-night wakefulness belongs to him. He doesn't light a new lamp. The one in the hallway is still burning low, casting just enough light. More would feel wrong somehow, would break the spell of this liminal time. This is not day. This is not even normal evening. This is something else entirely. A pocket of time that exists outside the regular flow of hours, a secret space that the night gifts to those who know how to receive it. Marcus sits in the atrium on a stone bench, pulling his cloak tighter against the night air, and he does nothing. At least, nothing that our modern minds would recognize as productive. He simply sits and thinks and feels and exists in this moment without agenda or purpose. This is what Romans did during the watch of the night. Some prayed, some meditated, some read if they were educated and had texts available. Some made love quietly with their spouses. Some simply sat, like Marcus, and let their minds wander through the landscape of thought without trying to direct or control it. You see, the Romans understood something we've forgotten. They understood that the human mind needs this time, needs these quiet hours of gentle wakefulness to process, to integrate, to simply be, without the demands of the day, without social performance, without the need to be anyone other than yourself. Modern sleep scientists have discovered that this pattern, 2 periods of sleep separated by an hour or 2 of quiet wakefulness, might actually be our natural state. That before electric lights and rigid schedules and the industrial revolution's demand for constant productivity, humans everywhere slept this way. And when we suppress this natural waking period, when we force ourselves to try for 8 continuous hours, we often create the very insomnia we're trying to avoid. But Marcus doesn't know any of this science. He just knows it feels right, feels natural, feels like what his body wants to do. His mind wanders. He thinks about his life, about the strange journey that brought him from slavery to freedom, from having nothing to having this house, this family, this sense of security. He remembers his former master, not with bitterness, actually, because the man was fair, eventually granted him freedom, taught him the pottery trade. He thinks about his children and what futures they might have. He worries a little about money, about competition from other workshops, about whether he's saving enough for the lean seasons. But these thoughts don't spiral into anxiety, not here, not now, not in this peaceful darkness. They simply arise, are acknowledged, and drift away again like clouds across a night sky. There's something about this hour that makes even worries feel less heavy, less urgent. Tomorrow, in daylight, he'll deal with whatever needs dealing with. Tonight, he can just observe his thoughts without being controlled by them. He notices things he doesn't notice during the busy day, the way the starlight creates patterns on the floor of the atrium, the sound of water dripping somewhere, probably the fountain in the courtyard that needs repair, the smell of the city at night, different from the day, cooler and somehow cleaner, as if the darkness rinses away some of the accumulated human smell of 1,000,000 people living close together. Time passes. He's not sure how much, maybe half an hour, maybe an hour. It doesn't matter. He's not waiting for anything or rushing toward anything. He's just here, present, alive in this moment that feels somehow timeless. Several hours have passed. If we could see a water clock in the house, we'd know it's somewhere around midnight, perhaps a bit later. The Romans called this time the concubinium, the time when everyone goes to bed, but that's not quite accurate, because something interesting is happening now. Marcus stirs, not suddenly, not with alarm, but with the gentle, natural waking of someone whose body has completed the first phase of its nightly restoration. His eyes open in the darkness. He's not confused, not disoriented. This is normal. This is expected. This is the intempesta nox, the dead of night, the space between the 2 sleeps. He lies there for a moment, listening. The house is deeply quiet now, that particular quality of silence that only comes in the middle of the night when even the city has finally surrendered most of its activity. He can hear Julia's breathing beside him, slow and steady, she still in her first sleep, and he doesn't wake her. Some nights she wakes first, some nights they both wake together. Tonight, it's his turn. Marcus rises carefully from the bed, feeling around for his tunic in the darkness. The floor is cool under his bare feet. The hypocaust, the underfloor heating system, has been banked for the night. Not cold, but cooler. He pulls the tunic over his head, wraps himself in a light cloak for warmth. He moves through the house with the confidence of someone who knows every inch of his territory. Past the children's room, he pauses, listens, confirms they're sleeping peacefully. Past his mother-in-law's room, her snoring is gentle, rhythmic, reassuring. Into the atrium, where starlight filters down through the opening in the roof, just enough to see by. This hour, this mysterious middle-of-the-night wakefulness, belongs to him. He doesn't light a new lamp. The one in the hallway is still burning low, casting just enough light. More would feel wrong somehow, would break the spell of this liminal time. This is not day. This is not even normal evening. This is something else entirely. A pocket of time that exists outside the regular flow of hours, a secret space that the night gifts to those who know how to receive it. Marcus sits in the atrium on a stone bench, pulling his cloak tighter against the night air, and he does nothing. At least, nothing that our modern minds would recognize as productive. He simply sits and thinks and feels and exists in this moment without agenda or purpose. This is what Romans did during the watch of the night. Some prayed, some meditated, some read if they were educated and had texts available. Some made love quietly with their spouses. Some simply sat, like Marcus, and let their minds wander through the landscape of thought without trying to direct or control it. You see, the Romans understood something we've forgotten. They understood that the human mind needs this time, needs these quiet hours of gentle wakefulness to process, to integrate, to simply be, without the demands of the day, without social performance, without the need to be anyone other than yourself. Modern sleep scientists have discovered that this pattern, 2 periods of sleep separated by an hour or 2 of quiet wakefulness, might actually be our natural state. That before electric lights and rigid schedules and the industrial revolution's demand for constant productivity, humans everywhere slept this way. And when we suppress this natural waking period, when we force ourselves to try for 8 continuous hours, we often create the very insomnia we're trying to avoid. But Marcus doesn't know any of this science. He just knows it feels right, feels natural, feels like what his body wants to do. His mind wanders. He thinks about his life, about the strange journey that brought him from slavery to freedom, from having nothing to having this house, this family, this sense of security. He remembers his former master, not with bitterness, actually, because the man was fair, eventually granted him freedom, taught him the pottery trade. He thinks about his children and what futures they might have. He worries a little about money, about competition from other workshops, about whether he's saving enough for the lean seasons. But these thoughts don't spiral into anxiety, not here, not now, not in this peaceful darkness. They simply arise, are acknowledged, and drift away again like clouds across a night sky. There's something about this hour that makes even worries feel less heavy, less urgent. Tomorrow, in daylight, he'll deal with whatever needs dealing with. Tonight, he can just observe his thoughts without being controlled by them. He notices things he doesn't notice during the busy day, the way the starlight creates patterns on the floor of the atrium, the sound of water dripping somewhere, probably the fountain in the courtyard that needs repair, the smell of the city at night, different from the day, cooler and somehow cleaner, as if the darkness rinses away some of the accumulated human smell of 1,000,000 people living close together. Time passes. He's not sure how much, maybe half an hour, maybe an hour. It doesn't matter. He's not waiting for anything or rushing toward anything. He's just here, present, alive in this moment that feels somehow timeless. Eventually, he feels it. A subtle shift in his body, a gentle tiredness that's different from the exhaustion that brought him to bed hours ago. This is softer, quieter, an invitation rather than a demand. His body is ready for the second sleep, the postea somnos, the deeper, dreamier sleep that carries you to morning. He rises, moves quietly back to the bedroom. Julia has shifted position but remains asleep. He slips back under the blankets, feeling their warmth, feeling the comfort of this familiar bed, this familiar presence beside him. And without struggle, without the racing thoughts or desperate attempts to force sleep that plague so many of us, Marcus simply drifts away, back into sleep, into the second sleep that will carry him until dawn. This is the rhythm that worked. This is why 2 sleeps made sense. The first sleep restored the body, deep, physical, recuperative. The watch of the night restored the soul, contemplative, peaceful, integrative. And the second sleep prepared you for the new day, lighter, more dreamful, often bringing insights and creative solutions that the waking mind couldn't access. It wasn't broken sleep, it was complete sleep, just structured differently, honored differently, understood differently. And maybe, just maybe, if you find yourself waking in the middle of the night sometimes, you're not broken either. You're not an insomniac. You're not doing anything wrong. You're just experiencing something ancient, something natural, something human. And instead of panicking, instead of staring at the clock and calculating how many hours you have left and spiraling into anxiety, maybe you could try what Marcus did. Just be awake for a while, quietly, peacefully, without judgment. Let your thoughts wander. Let your body rest, even while your mind is gently alert. And then, when you're ready, let the second sleep come naturally. Trust the rhythm. Trust your body. Trust the wisdom of thousands of years of human experience. Trust that you know how to sleep. Not far from Marcus's house, in a smaller apartment in a crowded insula, one of Rome's multi-storied tenement buildings, another person is experiencing the watch of the night. But her experience is different, more difficult, more weighted with emotion. Her name is Livia. She's a widow, perhaps 50 years old, living alone now after her husband's death 2 years ago. Her children are grown and scattered across the empire, one son in the legions stationed in Britannia, a daughter married to a merchant in Alexandria. She sees them rarely. Letters come occasionally, carried by travelers or traders, but the distance is vast and visits are expensive. She lives simply in 2 rooms on the 3rd floor of the insula, 1 room for living, 1 for sleeping. She supports herself with weaving, creating cloth that she sells to merchants in the forum. Her fingers are nimble despite her age, her work meticulous and valued. But the nights are hard. She woke an hour ago from her first sleep, and now she sits by her small window, looking out over the darkened city. A single oil lamp burns beside her, its flame small but steady. She's wrapped in her warmest cloak because these upper floors don't have heating, and autumn nights can be genuinely cold. And she's lonely. There's no way around it, no prettier word for it. She's deeply, achingly lonely in a way that daylight allows her to push aside, but nighttime makes impossible to ignore. During the day, she can weave and chat with neighbors and visit the marketplace and feel part of the city's vast human tapestry. But at night, in these quiet hours, she's confronted with the simple truth. She's alone. Her husband used to wake during the watch of the night. They'd talk softly, share thoughts, sometimes make love, sometimes just hold each other. That companionship, that intimacy of shared darkness, she misses it with a physical ache that hasn't lessened much despite 2 years of his absence. She picks up a small wooden figurine from the windowsill. It's crudely carved, not valuable, but precious to her nonetheless. Her husband made it years ago, when they were young, when their children were small. It's supposed to be a bird, a dove maybe, though the details are vague. He wasn't talented at carving, but he tried, and she loved him for the trying. Tears come. Not dramatic, not sobbing. Just quiet tears that slide down her cheeks as she holds this small piece of memory. The Romans believed that grief should be controlled, that excessive mourning was unseemly, that life goes on and you must go on with it. But here, alone, in the middle of the night, she allows herself to feel it fully. And strangely, there's something almost comforting in this grief, something real and human and honest. The daylight requires her to be strong, to be capable, to present a face of coping to her neighbors and clients. But the night allows her to be truthfully, completely herself. Sad, lonely, missing someone who can never return. She sets the carving down gently and wipes her tears with the edge of her cloak. Her breathing is shaky for a moment, then steadies. She's not drowning in grief. She's known that feeling in the early months after his death, and this isn't that. This is just remembering, honoring, holding space for what was and what can never be again. And then, surprising herself, she begins to pray. Not formally, not with the official prayers to the state gods or the elaborate rituals that priests perform. Just talking to her husband as if he can hear her, because maybe he can. The Romans believed the dead lingered for a while, watched over their families, offered protection from the other side. "I'm managing well enough," she whispers to the darkness, to his memory, to wherever spirits go. "The weaving brings in enough money. The neighbors check on me. I'm not suffering, but I miss you. I miss your voice. I miss knowing someone cares what happens to me, truly cares, the way you did. Sometimes I wonder what the point is. Not in a dangerous way, not like I do anything foolish, just wondering. What am I working for? What am I saving for? What's the shape of a life when you're living it alone?" The questions hang in the air. No answers come, because these aren't the kind of questions that have simple answers. They're the questions humans have always asked in the deep of night, when the defenses are down, and the soul speaks more honestly than it dares to during day. But something shifts as she speaks. The loneliness doesn't disappear, but it becomes bearable, shared somehow, even though she's talking to someone who isn't there. The act of voicing it, of naming it, takes away some of its power. This is what the watch of the night offered people like Livia, a time to be honest, to be vulnerable, to feel what needs feeling without the pressure of an audience. She sits a while longer, then feels it, that gentle tug back towards sleep, the second sleep, waiting to receive her. She rises stiffly from the window, her joints protesting a bit. Age is like that, creeping up slowly until one day you notice you don't move the way you used to. She banks the lamp, leaving just the faintest glow, gets into her bed, narrower than the bed she used to share, but adequate for one, pulls the blankets up. The pillow smells faintly of the lavender she keeps in a sachet beneath it, a small luxury that makes the sleeping space more pleasant. And as she closes her eyes, she thinks, tomorrow. Tomorrow she'll weave. Tomorrow she'll talk to her neighbor. Tomorrow she'll go to the marketplace and buy fresh bread, and maybe save enough to light a candle at her husband's tomb. Tomorrow there will be life, purpose, connection. But tonight she honored her grief. She spoke her loneliness. She was real, and that's enough. Sleep comes more easily than she expected, the second sleep, gentle and deep, carrying her away from sorrow and into dreams. And perhaps, if the Romans are right about the dead watching over the living, her husband's spirit keeps vigil while she rests. Perhaps she's not quite as alone as she feels. Loss is part of the human story, isn't it? We love, and therefore we lose. We connect, and therefore we grieve when connection is severed. The ancient Romans knew this. They built elaborate tombs and rituals around death, not because they were morbid, but because they understood that loss deserved honor, deserved space, deserved acknowledgement. If you're carrying grief tonight, know this: you're not alone in it. Across all of history, others have carried similar weight. Others have woken in the night and felt the absence of someone they loved. Others have wondered how to keep going. Others have found, somehow, that life continues, that morning comes, that purpose persists even when joy feels distant. You're part of that long, aching, beautiful human story, and like Livia, you'll find your way through, one night at a time, one sleep at a time. Let's visit one more Roman tonight, someone quite different from Marcus the potter or Livia the widow, someone whose experience of the night watch illuminates another dimension of why this two-sleep pattern worked so well for the human mind. His name is Gaius Aurelius Cotta, and he's a philosopher. Not a famous one. He's no Marcus Aurelius or Seneca, no one whose words will echo through the centuries. Just a modestly successful teacher of Stoic philosophy. A man who earns his living by tutoring wealthy Romans in the art of thinking clearly, living virtuously, accepting what cannot be changed. He's awake now in his study during the watch of the night. This is his favorite time, actually, the time he most looks forward to during each day's cycle. His household is asleep, his wife, his slaves, his 2 young sons. The city outside has quieted to its nighttime murmur, and he has these precious hours to think, to read, to write, to pursue the examined life that Socrates insisted was the only life worth living. He's writing on a wax tablet, using a bronze stylus to scratch words into the soft surface. Writing by lamplight, the shadows dancing across the page, his thoughts flowing more freely than they do during the cluttered daytime. He's working on a treatise about fear, specifically about the fear of death and why a philosopher should not fear the inevitable. But he's struggling with it, not because he hasn't read all the standard arguments. He has. Socrates' calm acceptance of the hemlock, Epicurus's logical proof that death is nothing to us, since when we exist, death does not, and when death exists, we do not. The Stoic teaching that death is natural, expected, part of the rational order of the cosmos. He knows all this intellectually, but intellectually knowing something and deeply believing it, embodying it, living it, those are different things entirely. He sets down his stylus and leans back in his chair. Outside his window, he can see a sliver of moon, waning now, a curved blade of silver in the darkness. The same moon that shone on Socrates, on Epicurus, on all the great minds he studies. Nothing new under the sun, as the saying goes, and yet each generation, each individual must wrestle with these eternal questions anew. Why do I still fear it? He murmurs to himself, voicing the question that's been nagging at him for weeks. I'm a philosopher. I teach others not to fear death. I can argue the case brilliantly. My students are convinced. But me, late at night, when I'm honest, I'm still afraid.
This is what the watch of the night reveals. This is what the darkness brings to the surface. All the things we can push aside during the busy day, all the questions we can deflect with activity and social performance and professional identity, they wait patiently for these quiet hours, and then they emerge. He thinks about his sons sleeping in the next room. One is 7, one is 5. Bright boys, curious, full of life. What if he dies while they're still young? Who will teach them, guide them, help them become good men? His wife is capable, yes, but still, a father's absence leaves a particular kind of wound. And there it is, the real fear beneath the philosophical fear. Not death itself, but what death takes from others. The selfish worry about being forgotten, yes, but more than that, the protective fear about leaving his loved ones without him. That's not irrational. That's love. That's deeply, profoundly human. He feels something release in his chest as he acknowledges this, a tension he didn't fully realize he was carrying. Because once you name the real fear, once you're honest about it, it loses some of its power. It's still there, but it's not hidden anymore, not lurking in the shadows, growing larger than it should be. I cannot control when I die, he says softly, speaking aloud the core Stoic principle. That is not in my power. What is in my power is how I live until that moment comes. Whether I use my time well, whether I teach my sons what they need to know, whether I love fully while I can. This is Stoicism at its most practical, most useful, not abstract philosophy, but lived wisdom, the recognition that some things are in your control and some things aren't, and all your suffering comes from confusing the two. Death is not in your control, but living with intention, with purpose, with love, that is. He picks up his stylus again, but this time he doesn't write about death. Instead, he writes about life, about the preciousness of the present moment, about how each day is a gift, not guaranteed, to be used wisely, about how loving his children tonight matters more than worrying about some hypothetical future when he won't be there. The words flow more easily now, more honestly, less concerned with sounding impressive and more concerned with capturing truth.
This is what often happened during the Roman watch of the night. Insights arrived, problems solved themselves, creative blocks dissolved, because the tired mind, the relaxed mind, the honest mind, it often works better than the striving, performance-oriented daylight mind. Modern neuroscience tells us that this makes sense, that the brain needs this kind of unfocused time to make connections, to process information, to integrate learning, that the default mode network, the parts of the brain that activate when we're not concentrating on specific tasks, is where creativity happens, where meaning-making occurs. But Gaius doesn't know about neuroscience. He just knows that these nighttime hours are when he does his best thinking, when he's most himself, when the persona of Gaius Aurelius Cota, respected philosopher, falls away, and he's just a human being grappling with human questions, finding human answers. An hour passes, maybe more. He's lost in his writing, in his thoughts. The lamp burns lower. The wax tablet fills with words. Some of these words he'll keep, will refine, will maybe even include in his teachings. Others he'll smooth away in the morning, recognizing them as midnight ramblings. It doesn't matter. The act of thinking, of wrestling, of engaging with these big questions, that's what matters. Eventually, he feels it, the gentle tiredness returning, his eyes growing heavy, his thoughts beginning to scatter and drift in that particular way that signals sleep approaching. He sets down his stylus one more time, reads over what he's written, and nods with satisfaction.
Not bad, he murmurs. Not perfect, but honest, real. That's what matters. He extinguishes the lamp, moves quietly through his house to his bedroom. His wife stirs slightly as he slides into bed beside her, then settles back into sleep. He lies there for a moment, feeling grateful for this life, this family, this opportunity to think and learn and grow. And then, without struggle, without forcing, the second sleep receives him, carries him away into dreams, into rest, into the mysterious restoration that sleep provides night after night, as long as we allow it. You are a philosopher too, you know. Maybe not professionally. Maybe you've never read Socrates or Epictetus or Marcus Aurelius, but you're a philosopher in the truest sense, someone who thinks about life, who grapples with meaning, who wonders about the big questions. And you deserve this time too, this gentle nighttime space to let those thoughts arise without judgment, to be honest with yourself about your fears and hopes and confusions, to recognize that you don't have to have all the answers, that wrestling with the questions is enough. The watch of the night is yours if you want it, not as a burden, not as insomnia, but as a gift, a space for the examined life, for honest thinking, for being truly, completely yourself. Let it be that. Let this wakefulness, if it comes, be an opportunity rather than a problem. And then, when you're ready, let the second sleep come naturally. Trust the rhythm. Trust the wisdom of centuries. Trust yourself.
The darkest part of night has passed. Though dawn is still hours away, something has shifted. The city of Rome, which quieted but never fully slept, begins its gradual stirring. A baker somewhere rises to begin preparing bread for the morning market. A night watchman completes his rounds. Early risers, those who will travel today or who have urgent business, begin their preparations. But for most Romans, these hours